So we all use the internet as both a tool and a resource, but we also know we can't believe everything we read on the internet and unfortunately everything we hear in the news. And this certainly includes some of the misinformation beginning to float around about the real estate market and how it may impact you. So anyone with a megaphone, it seems, from the mainstream media to social media influencers and anyone in between, has realized, unfortunately, that bad news sells. And in turn, that means we will likely continue to see a rash of troublesome headlines over the next few months. And in truth, it's why it's key to turn to a reliable resource like myself when looking for what to expect from the real estate market next year. So let's talk about two headlines that are starting to appear that may be causing undue alarm for homeowners and for home buyers alike. The first one is foreclosures are spiking. So we're starting to see a number of headlines circulating that call out the rising foreclosures in today's real estate market. But these stories focus on an overly narrow view of the topic. They say the current volume of foreclosures compared to 2020. And they emphasize that we're seeing far more foreclosures this year than compared to last year. And while it's true that foreclosures have been up over the 2020 numbers, we also know that context always matters. It is important to remember that there were virtually no foreclosures last year because of the forbearance program that was put in place due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So, instead, let's compare numbers, say, to September of this year to September of 2019, which is before the pandemic. Foreclosures are actually down, and they're down by a considerable number. With the end of the moratorium, foreclosure activity has begun to increase, but it's actually increasing at a slower rate, and the activity is primarily on vacant and abandoned properties or loans that were in foreclosure prior to the pandemic. So all that to say, foreclosures are not actually spiking today. There is nowhere near the number of foreclosures that we saw, as an example, compared to maybe even the Great Recession. So to quote the great Flavor Flav, I would say, don't believe the hype. Now let's move to the second one. The second headline is rising mortgage rates will slow the housing market. Really? The topic of mortgage rates is generating a lot of interesting headlines, and some people are expressing concern that rising rates will negatively impact the housing market by causing home sales to dramatically decline. These headlines are raising unneeded alarm, though. We simply need to look at what history tells us to find the true headlines related to mortgage rates in 2022. When you look at historical data from the last 20 years, there is no evidence to say that an increase in mortgage rates forces home sales to come to a halt, nor do home price appreciation, something we've been experiencing lately and over the last several years, come to a screeching halt. When you look at home sales, the last two times rates actually increased, which was in 2014 and 2018, sales remain rather consistent. And when you look at home price appreciation, the rise in rate did not cause prices to depreciate, but rather continue to appreciate, but just at a slower rate. So the bottom line, there's a lot of misinformation out there, which is exactly why I record these videos for you. You guys know I study the market to bring you the most accurate information and to serve as a trusted real estate advisor for you. So if you want the best advice on what's happening in the current real estate market, reach out and let's connect.